Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's interview. I'm so excited to interview Eloise today. She is a psychologist and financial expert working with money and the nervous system. And I have been so excited for this interview for the last week because the connection between the nervous system and finances has just blown me away. And I'm just so excited to have this conversation. So thank you for being here.
I'm so excited. As I was saying to you, I love talking about money, and the nervous system. Two of my favorite things. So we're in the right place.
Yes. So let's get started in with how did you get in contact with this connection between finances and money and money and the nervous system?
Yeah, I knew what you meant. It's a really good question. When I was working as a psychologist, I kind of first started working with families that weren't earning a lot of money. They were probably below the poverty line. They were really struggling financially, and they were in survival mode. They were living paycheck to paycheck, just not having enough to kind of make ends meet. And I was like, fair enough, that's understandable. They don't have money. And then I started working with a very different set of people. I was working with women who were CEOs of companies that were making 7 figures. I was working with women who were in these really well-paid professions. I was working with people part of a family who were living in these really affluent, well-off areas. They had nice cars. They had all of the things that society told them that they should check off. But their nervous system was still it still wasn't enough money. And so I became curious, and I was like, oh, that's so interesting that it doesn't matter whether you are below the poverty line or you have a nice house in an affluent suburb. There was still a lot of fear around money. Yes, it looked differently. Yes, they had a lot more privilege. However, I was curious about that, combined with my own experiences of wanting to have a better life for myself, my skills in psychology. It all just kind of amalgamated into, holy moly, I think there's this gap here, and I think I can help people make more money by exploring it. So I started working in this space, and I started seeing how people's relationship with money would shift, how they would start to make more money by doing the nervous system work, and then it just exploded from there.
So I hear you saying that you were working with families who were quite poor, who didn't have a lot, and therefore they were in survival mode, which makes sense because their basic needs were hardly being met. While then you work with more affluent people and you realize they have all this wealth, but still they can live emotionally in survival mode.
And also still paycheck to paycheck, I remember working with 7-figure business owner who still couldn't afford groceries because, they weren't managing their money well because they were still associating money with childhood wounds of not having enough. So it's not actually about the money, which is wild.
Let's talk about childhood wounds connected to money.
It's lit up.
My brain was like, we can go there.
Love it.
What are childhood wounds and how do they show, and what kind of childhood wounds show up with money?
How long do you have? No, because this is something that fascinates me to no end, because I think that we often underestimate how much our childhood impacts us as adults. And our childhood, that is where we learn how to view the world. We learn about the world when we're a kid. And there are so many ways that can develop. We think, oh, well, we didn't have enough money to put food on the table, so I have a scarcity mindset. But it's not just about not having enough money to put the food on the table. It's about what we interpreted that to mean.
Mm.
We didn't have enough money to put food on the table. And I would hear comments like, well, if you didn't have children, then you would be able to have more money. And then I've not me personally, but like somebody might then internalize that and go, oh, well, it's my fault that we don't have any money. I'm the one to blame. And so then as an adult, you then will subconsciously replay that out. Well, it's my fault that we don't have money. And you might then find yourself impulsively spending, which reinforces it's your fault because it's not logical. You're not doing it intentionally, but it's feeding off that belief that we're not even aware of. And there's many of them. Like, I guess the common ones that I see are kind of wanting to be responsible with money, like feeling like you have to be overly responsible. And I see this play out a lot with women where their partners will be the one that kind of spend the money because the woman's the breadwinner and like they're the breadwinner and their partner's like, well, you're making money now. I want a boat. Go make more money so that you can buy me a boat. And they feel like they're responsible, but they can't have fun with it, or they don't trust themselves with money. They make money and then will go buy themselves a $10,000 designer handbag that they don't need instead of paying their taxes. Reinforces they're not good with money. Or rich people are bad. People who have money are terrible people. How can you make money if you have those beliefs? So there's so much that can come from it. It's hard to kind of, I don't know, have that compassion for your younger child, like your inner child as well.
It's so exciting. I'm like, my brain is like moving because I of course have like remembered, oh, I want to talk about this topic, but you're already saying so many things that I didn't expect to like hear. And I think, yeah, what we make out of the stories that we, from what we have experienced with our parents. And then of course also the things that we felt like are happening because most parents don't talk about money with their parents.
Yeah, and it's that's a really good point, because I think the thing is, like, when we have these, I guess, explicit experiences where we can see them happening, we can pinpoint it and go, well, that's why this happened. But sometimes it's what doesn't happen. It's the conversations that weren't had about money, or it's the interpretation that our 6-year-old brain made.
Yeah.
That 30-year-old brain wouldn't make of that same situation, but we're trying to fix it with our 30-year-old brain. There's so much complexity when it comes to money, and I think so many people try and target it just with spreadsheets and budgeting and logical thinking. But if you think about how the brain actually develops, and this is like Psych 101, and I always worry that I bore people, but I think it's important because when we're born, we have our subconscious that's developing, our subconscious brain, our emotional brain, and that's developing from 0 to 7 years old. That is the only part of our brain developing. It's very emotional. It's very reactive. It's why you see kids who scream when they don't get a lollipop. And you're like, it's just a lollipop. But to the kid, it's like the whole world is ending. Because they don't have that logic that an adult does. Our adult logical brain starts developing from the age of 7 and finishes developing at the age of 26. So our brain's not even fully developed. And we're absorbing all of these messages about money, about success, about achievement, about how capable we are, how we interact with other people, aka when we're adults, how we interact with clients, which impacts how much money we make. So there's so many things that we're learning and that's going on. And people don't realize that when you start a business, you're not just starting a business, you're bringing all of that into the business and your relationship with money with you.
That's so good what you said. I'm wondering, there are like different, like maybe core wounds that people have, and one of them could be abandonment. How do you see that playing out in the relationship with money?
Yeah, it's really interesting because I'm putting together a masterclass actually, and I've been debating whether to use the word abandonment wound in my marketing. So it's interesting that we're talking about it now. Yeah, so let me share an example because I find it hard to contextualize it sometimes without an example. But let's say that you, as a child, had a parent, a mother, who would just kind of make these offhanded comments to you where you had to get love in a particular way. You could only get love and you would only receive love in a particular way. Like if you were performing, if you were being a good girl, if you were being nice or polite. And then if you weren't being that, you wouldn't get love. You wouldn't get affection.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't really have a lot to do with money. But what happens is you learn that in order to get your mum to love you and to not abandon you emotionally, what then happens is you will do whatever you can to win that approval from your mum. I say mum, but it could be dad. And then as you get older, you learn to stay quiet. You learn not to share all of the parts of yourself, not to ask for what you want, because if you ask for what you want, mum doesn't meet that emotional need and you'll get abandoned. And it's not talking about abandonment. Like abandonment can range from that emotional abandonment. It can be physical abandonment. Like my mum left when I was 16. So that was like a physical abandonment, right? But it can be little abandonments. Forgot to pick you up from school consistently, was an alcoholic, drank a lot of alcohol, wasn't able to nurture and maintain a relationship. Not related to money, but what you learn from that is connection with other people comes at a cost. And when you're in a business and you're trying to make money and you have a client who is wanting to sign up with you but is not paying their invoices, that abandonment wound kicks in. And it's like, well, the way that I have to run my business is by making sure that my needs get squashed down. Other people, I need to win their approval, which then impacts money because you're taking on clients so that your abandonment wound doesn't get triggered. Does that make sense?
That was a lot of good information. Okay, so when we have an abandonment wound, so let's talk about emotional abandonment wound. Like the parents were maybe still there, but like emotionally they were not like able to be fully there. Then you feel scared that if you do X, Y, Z, that then you will be left. So I will try my business to like please, so I will not be left. And if my client doesn't pay, then I feel abandoned because just my needs getting met is the payment. Let's say that, and then I feel like my needs are not getting met. So that then brings up that anxiousness or fear or and then it might make me overdo things as well in my business. So people are happy and are not leaving. Is that what you meant?
Yeah, 100%. You articulated it so much more concisely than me. Yes. Yeah. And it's interesting because like we don't do it consciously, and like people don't even realize it. But when I work with clients, like we go deep, and often like we don't even realize the things that are coded so deep within us. Money is often the symptom, the thing that we can see.
Yeah.
But underneath it, there's so much. Like it's never in my work. I don't think I've ever had somebody where it has been something obvious relating to a childhood memory about money. It's never usually about the money. It's usually about abandonment or fear of failure or being rejected or unlovable or unworthy is a big one.
Yeah. You said something so good. The things that block your money is most probably not something that happened with money.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I can say for myself. Like, it's not like I grew up having a great relationship with money. Like, I had so much fun with my money. Like, I was always like selling things. I always had like for a child like huge amounts of money in my room. I was always playing with my money. I had like so much fun with money. But now things show up. I have nothing to do with money. Also, I have not felt like huge fear around money from my parents. Like, they had fear, but I didn't feel it, to be honest. So that was good for me. But then other things show up in money that has more with emotional topics to do. I saw you saying on your website and also on a few Instagram posts that we need safety in our nervous system and in our body in order to make more money, receive more money. Can you explain why that is?
I'll try and keep it concise. Like my nervous system, my subconscious brain goes into how can I explain the nervous system in simple ways. But if you think about our nervous system, like it has two states. It has the go state, which prompts us into action, which is really great when we see a bear or something dangerous. We need to be able to respond to that. It also has a state where we just need to be calm, balanced, and relaxed. And the problem is, over the years, our nervous system has learnt that money is that fear state. We've seen our parents argue about money. We've had tension in the household. There hasn't been enough. And we've kind of had this association with money of money being scary. Money is fearful.
Mm-hmm.
And when the role of our nervous system is to keep us safe, our nervous system just wants us to stay alive. It doesn't care about money. It doesn't care whether we're having a great life, flying business class, sipping champagne. It just wants to keep us safe. But because it's got this association with money as being scary, it will do whatever it can to keep us away from the money that we say that we want. And if our nervous system continues to view it as a threat, we're not going to be able to actually get it. And what I mean by that is and I see this, like I see this with people all the time, the word money, I say the word, people at networking events, what do you do, Ellie? I'm like, oh, I'm a money mindset coach. And they're like, money. And they like, you can visibly see them pull back. That's their nervous system going, money doesn't feel safe to me. So that is the work. We need to help you not have those responses in your body so that when you talk about money, when you think about money, when you talk about raising your prices or saying no to a client who you know is not a good fit for you, it feels easier. It doesn't give you that kind of like, response in your body. And that is nervous system work.
So the uncomfortableness and maybe awkwardness or weirdness that we feel when we talk about money is our nervous system getting dysregulated from it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But also, like, you know, sometimes it's okay for our nervous system to have that dysregulation. It's not to say that our nervous system needs to be calm all the time, because that's not possible. We need to feel different emotions. We need to have our nervous system activated. For example, right, like imagine that you had a potential client come into your world and your nervous system was just chill with absolutely everyone. It didn't get activated. And your nervous system couldn't tell the difference between somebody who probably was a bad fit for your business and somebody who was a good fit. That's going to be difficult. So it's helpful when you can start to interpret the clues. I actually had a conversation about this earlier today where I made a decision a while back. I was just reflecting on it today, where I took in a client who wasn't a good fit. I paid for that in a lot of ways. And I knew at the time that I shouldn't have taken the client on, but I did it anyway. My nervous system said, no, not a good fit. I didn't listen because as women, we're conditioned to not listen. Had I have listened, life would have been a lot easier for me. live and learn. And when you get and now my nervous system would still have that exact same response. My nervous system response wouldn't change. I would still have the exact same response. The difference is now I would be able to notice my nervous system's response in real time. I would be able to say to myself, I don't want that type of client. I know what my nervous system is communicating me. I know how to read the signals. Therefore, no, I'm not going to work with you. And that is the difference of knowing that regulation is not always a bad thing. It's just information.
This is so beautiful what you said. So when our goal is not to feel safe in our body and never feel scared, but but to have a baseline of safety. So then if our body does not feel safe, then recognize why is it, and then take the information from that and actually use it good. It's just bad if it's stuck in a state of survival and threat and unsafety, and then it signals unsafety where it shouldn't.
Yeah, you have a really nice way of articulating things in a much simpler way than I do. Yeah, but you have absolutely nailed that. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So what about people who say, I need more money to feel more secure and safe? Then I will feel more safe.
Oh, that's so funny. Look, I'm going to caveat this by saying that it does make sense that in some cases, you need a certain amount of money, right? Money, we need it to live. However, there comes a point where you have enough and you think, well, I'm just going to have $100,000 in my bank account and then I'm finally going to feel okay. But my question around that is, well, how would you feel if you did have the money that you wanted in your bank account? What would change? And if the answer is, well, it would help me feel more secure with what? Secure that you end up homeless, secure, because underneath that, what I'm hearing is there's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of anxiety, there's still a lot of fear. And money is a tool, but money is not ever going to override your emotional responses.
That's a good sentence. Money is not going to override your emotional responses. I like that.
It's kind of like I don't know, I kind of see it as, and I sometimes I've done this exercise with clients, if I had held it sounds really intense now that I'm saying it out loud, but if I held a gun to your head, could I make you feel shock? Well, probably I could make you if I had a gun to your head. That's probably a bad emotion to choose. I was going to say love, because that's normally what I do with my clients. Could somebody force you to feel love for someone? If you had a gun to your head, could you force yourself to feel love for someone?
I don't think so, to be honest.
You would want to. You would desperately want to. You'd be like, yes, I really want to be able to love, but you wouldn't be able to actually make your body have that response. And it's kind of the same with money in the sense that you can have money, but just because it's there doesn't mean that it's going to give you that emotion that you're looking for. That actually comes from within you. You have that in you already.
Yeah. That's so good, because many times we look for external things.
Yeah.
And especially money in order to gain happiness. However, recognizing that we have the ability to be happy no matter what, and then finances can show up or not, but it's not dependent on that.
I think money adds to life. Money definitely adds, but I don't think money is the thing, because I don't know about you, but I want money, but ultimately what I want is I want to get out of, I live in Australia, I live in Melbourne, and it's cold in winter and I hate the cold. I want money so I can wake up one day and go, you know what, I'm going to go spend 3 months overseas working. I'm happy to work, but I want to be able to go somewhere warm because I don't want to spend 3 months in winter. So I want money for that flexibility. I want money for freedom. I want money to go visit my family overseas. I want money to have a car that's not going to break down, or if my toilet breaks and it gets clogged, I want to be able to bring up a plumber at 2 a.m. in the morning and say, hey, can you come help me fix it? Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and will that help me feel secure? I mean, yeah, it'll be amazing to have that, but I'm not looking for money to be happy.
Yeah. No, yeah, money definitely gives a level of security, but combined with a level of safety in your nervous system, I think that's a very good combo.
I just wonder though, like if you don't feel safe in your nervous system, I don't know, like how do you hold and attract that money? It makes it really tough. Like I think that's kind of the thing that I see. Like I see people, and we all have like different money thresholds.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mine is it still probably is like at 10,000, and then building above that, my nervous system's like, whoo, time to go on a holiday. You've got money in the bank, let's go on a holiday. And then it dips down and it kind of fluctuates between 2 points. And that's what my nervous system kind of feels comfortable with. And it's funny how it does that, like how it's kind of like, I don't know if you've ever dated someone and you're like, I'm never dating someone like that again. And then the next person that you date, you're like, yeah, this person is so different. They're so awesome. And then you break up with them and you're like, holy shit, they were like the same as the other person. How did that happen? It's the same with money. We look for the familiar.
Yeah. Yeah. We know. Even
Right.
with friendships. That's why I had this not so good pattern in my teenage years that when something I didn't like, I cut people off. But then I realized it's my pattern. And if I just cut them off, the person, they even looked similar. They were similar. And I'm not speaking about romantic even about friendships. I was like, okay, maybe part of me is me. And then you never have to cut people off, because when you change, automatically either the friendships like improves or it just like loses out a little bit. That was definitely learning. Yeah. Yeah, you want to say something?
I was just going to say, like, that's nervous system in action, though. Like, part of it is awareness and part of it is recognizing the patterns and seeing your role in it. Like, that's really cool. Confronting, but cool.
Yeah, confronting, definitely.
Definitely.
Because you can't blame others anymore. You're like, damn.
Accountability, like, I think is a really beautiful thing. Like, being able to take that accountability is, like, so cool.
Yeah. How is seeking validation from others blocking our money-making abilities?
I love your questions. Oh, my goodness. Seeking validation from others. Oh. There's so many tangents on this because I think, like, you know, think about it with clients, right? Like, if we look for validation or can look for validation in so many ways from our clients to, you know what I mean? Like, and it can be subtle, like it can be just subtle validation of wanting to be liked by other people, wanting to be approved, wanting other people to acknowledge our prices, you know, like not make a comment about our prices. So we just make sure that our prices are always reasonable so that we don't have that judgment.
Yeah.
Validation, like even at networking events. I was talking about this with someone recently where there's so much mediocrity, and just because, like, women supporting women, even when what they're offering is average. And that, I think, is another form of that external validation of wanting to be seen as supporting others, even when there's so many layers to that validation, because we think that if we're validated, then we're okay. And it takes a lot of courage to kind of step out of that and say, you know what, I validate myself. I don't need to worry about what other people think. I have a client who knows that she's not charging what she deserves. She should be charging so much more for her expertise, but is terrified because she worries what other peers around her are charging, and is like, well, but if I charge what I really want to charge, that's going to be like double what everyone else around us is charging. And I'm like, that's okay. But that validation and making sure that we're accepted is so deeply embedded, particularly as women.
And if your nervous system is kind of in a survival mode state, then that feels like a survival threat. People not liking you.
100%. And like, you know, if we think about it, like back in the day, like our nervous system is wired for connection. Our nervous system is wired to want other people to connect with us, because back hundreds of years ago, when we didn't have access to all of this resources and technology and food at our disposal, and we were relying on hunting and gathering our food, we needed to be accepted, we needed to be liked so that we could be fed and survive, essentially. So there's a lot of biological roots to it that aren't logical per se, but again, we don't think of these things. We just like, why can't I make more money?
Yeah. You know, there's this feeling where when you're like, I'm working so much and I'm hustling so much, why is the money not coming? Can you please explain?
So that's 100%. Like that's usually when people are in the flight response, where it looks like they're really busy because they're on their website changing the colors and the fonts around, or they might be, I don't know, doing busy work, checking their emails, making their email signature look better. And they spend 8 hours doing that, but what they're not doing is actually generating revenue. They're not moving the needle forward. They're not doing the things that are actually going to make them money. So they get frustrated because they're like, why am I not making money? And it's like, well, you're stuck in that like flight response, which is where it looks like you're doing, but you're actually running away from the visibility that you need to get your business out into the world.
So I hear you saying that when I'm in my flight response, I'm doing a lot, and it feels like also because I'm so activated that like it feels exhausting at some point.
So exhausting.
And but I'm not doing the things that actually make me money. And what I had in my mind is because it's flight, I'm basically running also away from the money because the money doesn't feel safe. Yeah, that explains it.
Is that a pattern that you find yourself in sometimes?
So I always had flight as my reaction, even when I was like very young. That was definitely. And I think no. I think I'm doing now more the right things, but I know that sometimes I avoid doing the one or two things that I should do the most because, as I said, my nervous system does not feel safe around it. And it's mostly about being very, very close to people. Because I know it's like I'm kind of working through this topic, so it's kind of like fear of being like very intimate because things happened in my past where that was very hurtful. So right before, I always like avoid it a little bit. So I do like all the work, and then right before, something magically happens.
Yeah, which is
and I'm gone.
Yes. And it's not related to money, right? Like it doesn't have to be related to money, but it impacts money when you can't close that sales conversation, for example, or because you all of a sudden, oh no, my calendar's full for the next 3 months, sorry. Because that fear kicks in. And the thing is, like, fear will push things away. That's its job. It says, it doesn't recognize that that person is a threat, but it recognizes the situation. It kind of generalizes it and makes them all look as though they're the same. The other responses are the fight response, which isn't punching, people away, but the fight response is kind of that wanting, like the perfectionism, wanting to be in control and perfect. The people pleasing fawn response, which we've kind of touched on in terms of I can't remember exactly, but we spoke about it earlier. And then the other one is the freeze response, which is where we kind of numb out, tap out, shut down, know exactly what we want to do, but find ourselves not doing it. And they're kind of the four biggest, or they're the four nervous system survival responses that we can find ourselves in.
Yeah. So you said perfectionism is kind of the fight. Flight is being very busy.
Yeah, busy, and a lot of like overthinking can happen in the flight response.
Actually, so you said, I always thought perfectionism is flight, but actually when you say it now, it is fight.
It's because of the so the way that I see the fight, I always get fight and flight confused because the fight response is kind of that just wanting to be like taking action and having the reins. It's kind of like you want to be in control, and perfectionism is all about control, right? You want things to be done perfectly. So for example, you might hire a virtual assistant and then find yourself reviewing all of her tasks, which would be the fight response, because you don't trust that somebody else can do your business the way that you would.
Which makes sense, because if I don't feel safe, then I don't feel safe of the outcome of when something isn't perfect.
Yeah. So it's kind of keep that safety through having everything perfect. Okay, which then plays because you don't actually get anything out into the world because you're too busy. Do I have this pink or that pink? Like, they're both pink, just a slight different variation, but sometimes we can get stuck on like the little details and then not actually put it out into the world.
Yeah. Okay, so fight is perfectionism. How does flight? Okay, flight, we said being very busy in a business context. Is there any other thing that you say this is typical flight behavior within your own business?
I think no, definitely just being like busy. And I think also procrastination could fall under flight as well. Procrastination could kind of fall under flight, and also the freeze response, depending. It looks a little bit different. So I think the procrastination under the flight response is more, I guess the procrastination that I'm thinking of is that busy work. So it might be, I know that I have to write an email. Hang on a minute, let me go clean the kitchen instead. Or hang on a minute, I know for me it's let me go check what's in the fridge, I'm hungry. So that's kind of my flight response when it kicks in. Let me go take the dog for a walk, and then I'll think about it, and then I'll come back and I'll do it. And then all of a sudden it's the end of the day and you haven't got half the things checked off on your to-do list. So that's kind of the flight response.
Yeah. And then how does freeze show up in your business context?
I have this like image, just, I don't know why it always pops up in my mind, but sitting on the couch with your phone in hand, just like flicking through all the TikToks, and then kind of looking up and going, oh my God, how did I spend 3 hours watching cat videos?
Because this is so real.
Right. And it's oh, they're so cute as well. Makes me realize I never want to have a cat. Like, they're little foreigners. It's so cute. I don't know, like freeze is kind of, you know exactly what you need to do. And you know, the problem is you can't do it. You just can't. And I don't know, people describe it as like having a bit of a cloudy kind of head. And it feels like their head is just stuck. They can't kind of move past it. But it really is. It's just kind of this shut down, numb. Sometimes people describe it as tapped out. Don't even want to think about it.
No, 100%. Have you experienced like this nervous system response, and how does it feel in your body?
Less so. I used to, like, I think a long time ago. I've done a lot of work, like through therapy and somatic stuff. So for me, with the freeze, I wanted to start a business, but I couldn't even start a business. Like, the whole concept of starting a business was just too overwhelming. So now I sit more in probably the flight response than anything. Very rarely I guess maybe, no, I don't really sit in the freeze response. But when I did, it was before starting my business. I couldn't even contemplate the idea of that. So since shifting out of the freeze, that was what helped me get into opening and starting my business.
Yeah, it makes definitely sense. For me, I always thought I don't have freeze because I was like, yeah, I'm such a fly person. But I was working through like a few things the past weeks, and I was like, actually, I have a freeze. I just forced myself to try to take action, or underneath the freeze, there was so much still like activation that it didn't feel as freezing because I felt so much anxiety underneath, but it was actually freeze.
Yeah,
which I found quite interesting.
One of the best things for freeze, like, one of the things that I love is just gentle movement. Like, and I find this interesting because ice baths used to be this massive trend. Mindfulness I guess mindfulness still is, but we have this idea that we need to do something. We need to do mindfulness or do an ice bath. When we're in a freeze response, though, gentle movement can help just get us back into our body, because when we're in a freeze response, we're not really in our body. We're kind of tapped out, checked out of our body, and we just want to bring some awareness. I love doing things, just rolling our shoulders. I know that sounds so super simple, but just like rolling the shoulders and, changing the direction, being able to just notice your body, move your fingers, move your wrists, like just bring awareness. Because when you can bring awareness into your body, it just wakes up your cells a little bit, and it can help just to connect us just a little bit in. It might only even be 1 or 2% back into our body, which might be enough to help us take that next step on whatever we need to do.
So that is what you do when you are in a state of, or what you would recommend others if they're in a state of freeze. What do you recommend people to do when they are more in the flight activation or fight?
So when people are in a, so funny because I put together a program on this actually, because I got really annoyed at ice baths and things, because I think that we try and do all these things for our nervous system, but we don't actually think about how. We don't think about what's going to help us in the moment. With the flight response, we are so go, 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 go. Like both our body and our brain. I don't know what it feels like for you, but for me, it just feels like I'm like, oh, all over the shop. And what we need to do in those moments, or what's most helpful in those moments, is to kind of slow ourselves down, which can be really hard when everything feels like it's going at 1,000,000 miles an hour.
Yeah.
One of the things I love in flight mode is walking, but slowly. And it doesn't need to be like going for a walk, like as in a walk around the block or anything like that, or a walk with your dog. I'm talking just walking around the house, but slowly, and feel every single step. Feel your heel as it, moves up and down as you walk, the heel to the sole. Feel your toes. Just really pay attention as you're walking slowly, 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 and slow it down even more, because it's not about the movement. It's about slowing down that pace, bringing your awareness to the movement that you're doing rather than the actual act of walking in and of itself. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So, I mean, it makes sense to do like walk and then walk more slowly. So it's kind of the opposite of flight response, basically saying, is of running.
Correct. Yeah.
While when we freeze, we're like stiff, and then we want to do simple movements that activates the movement.
Yeah, the way I see it is like when you're in the freeze response, you're kind of like frozen, right? Like we want to melt the freeze. We want to be able to kind of thaw you out a little bit. Whereas when we're in the flight response, we kind of want to ground, because we're up in the air, we're flying all around. We want to bring ourselves back down to earth, in a sense, a little bit. So I don't know, that's kind of how I conceptualize it.
No, it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. It's a good way of thinking. Yeah.
Sorry, and then fight, like the fight response, I think we've got a lot of emotion when we're in the fight response. And one of the things I love to do there is shake. Like it's kind of and I actually did that today because I was so angry earlier today. I was furious, and like there was just so much anger, and I couldn't let it go. I spoke to a friend. I can't remember what I did. Spoke to a friend, tried to let it go. It just wasn't going. It was there. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to do a bit of a somatic release. And I did a shake. But I'm not talking like a little delicate shake. I'm talking like, get it all out.
A real one.
Yeah, a real shake. Like it's so much fun. It just kind of lets the energy, the anger, the emotion, the intensity, it can help shake it, shift it.
Yeah. Have you ever experienced that you like try to regulate your nervous system and you can like your body start taking from itself? Like there's a different way of taking of I shake my body versus I let my body shake.
As in like it's doing it automatically through your nervous system?
Yeah.
And you're trying to release it, or?
No, so for me, for example, I can start my body like do some exercises that make my body shake, but I'm not shaking my body. And that releases also the tension.
No, I'm not familiar, or maybe I'm either not familiar or maybe I'm not understanding, but no.
I mean, I think it's hard to understand when you haven't fully like experienced, because when I tell people, they're like, "What do you mean?" But when you experience it. So I can just tell from my own experience. So, for example, if I, how can I say that? It has become so automatic. Like I can activate it, Like, for example, there's one exercise where I lie on the floor and I open like my legs like this. And then my body can like start shaking from itself. And then it releases a lot of tension.
Ah.
That's what I mean.
I see. That's cool. Actually, yeah, no. Is that a particular like modality that you do, or are there particular exercises, or?
Yes and no. It is if I want to like help somebody else start activating that in their body. For me, it happened because my body was like kind of so stressed that it started taking by itself.
Yeah.
And then I started to learn about it, and now I can just activate it whenever I want to. And then it releases stress, but it'll release it from different angles. Like if I release flight, my legs will move very fast. If I release fight, my arms start shaking.
That's you definitely do hold it. Like, you hold it in different areas. Yeah. It's that's interesting. And I hear what you're saying, like how it plays out, like it releases through the body in different ways. And it reminds me, like, I love kind of, it makes me think of like energetic shifts. And the thing that I think with that is it releases the energy in real time. The downside is that it's not shifting the core memory. And I think that's also the piece that comes into it as well, like shifting the actual memory that is attached to it. Because without shifting, sometimes we do like trauma-based work and it feels good in the moment, but we also need to go back to that memory and kind of reprogram that so that it stops being activated in the here and now.
Yeah, I was just curious what your experience is because everybody's experience is different.
It's interesting.
If a client is coming to you and it's like, you know, like I'm already making like okay amount of money, but I want to go to the next level, but I kind of feel burned out. How do you start? Like, what questions do you ask them, and how do you start guiding them through it?
Oh, that's a really good question. Because I don't really think about the questions that I ask. I just do it. And I'm trying to think, like, what do I ask? Like, what? So I guess with my one-on-one clients anyway, what I kind of would look at is, okay, well, this is going on with money. This is what's happening for you in the here and now. You're feeling blocked. And when you're feeling blocked by that, kind of what does that remind you of? What other memories come up? And when we go back, we find other memories. And then what I help kind of tease out is, well, when you think about those memories, what are you making that mean about you? And if that were true about you, what would that then say about who you are as a person? So we go deep pretty quick.
So what does that remind you of? And can you say the other question again? What does that mean about you as a person?
Yeah, what does that remind you? What's a memory that it reminds you of? And what are you making that mean about you as a person?
Yeah. What is the biggest money block that you see in most of your female clients?
Unworthiness.
Can you explain further?
Sorry. I'm just like, that is definitely the biggest one. Just these feelings of unworthiness, just these feelings of like they're not deserving or worthy or capable of making big money, that they don't deserve to say, I want to have a business that pays me well for my time and my expertise. Who am I to dare want to actually be able to fly business class and have a 6-week holiday without seeing any clients, because that would make me a bad person. Like there's just so much guilt and shame around money which has this underlying like unworthiness belief to it, which stems from society.
How does guilt block making more money?
Oh, how does guilt block making more money? Because it makes us feel like we have to be accommodating to other people, because we have this experience. Like, I was talking with a client about this today, like, we have this belief that guilt is a negative emotion. We've been taught that guilt is something that we should avoid. We shouldn't feel guilty. And if we do feel guilty, it's because we have done something wrong. And we forget that we can have a feeling of guilt and still make money. We can experience guilt and know that it doesn't mean that we're a bad person. It's just because that's what we've been conditioned to believe that guilt is. So we've got a really warped relationship with guilt that we've internalized that doesn't necessarily match what guilt actually is communicating to us. And so then we let it get in the way of our business decisions. We get hooked into it and we think that our feeling is right, and we make decisions based on guilt rather than our values, which impact how much we make.
Yeah. So are you saying that our guilt is blocking us making more money because based upon feeling guilty, we might decrease, for example, our price?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm wondering, what is the main source of this guilt that you see in your clients?
So I guess like from the other nervous system response, like if we think about like the fawn response, or a term that people might relate to more is people pleasing.
Yeah.
We do it because we want to people please. We do it because we interpret guilt to mean we're doing wrong by someone else, and we're taught that other people and their opinions, their feedback, their needs matter more than ours. So we'll bend over backwards trying to accommodate them. So guilt can often be part of that people-pleasing fawn response. Because if we set a boundary and we hurt someone's feelings, like that feels awful. We feel guilty. Oh, I can't believe I hurt their feelings. So we say yes to something that we don't want to actually do, even though we feel resentful, but they're happy. So it becomes this really complex emotion. But the ultimate cost is, what does it cost us if we listen to the guilt?
And in this case, it's not only an emotional cost, it is a literal financial cost.
Yeah, right? It's like literally.
Literally, yeah. What does it cost you? How many thousands of dollars? Yeah.
Legit. I actually had this conversation with a client the other day who's, I can't remember what she's charging, but we worked out it was like $40 that at least that she should be charging more, like at minimum. And guilt was costing her like thousands of dollars a year.
Yeah, it's crazy when you think about it. Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah. And another topic that I feel like a lot of women have struggles with are wanting to be seen, but not feeling truly safe to be seen, or there's shame around to be seen. Can you maybe share your experiences around that topic?
Do you know, it's really funny because I've said before, I'm a psychologist, and in the psychology profession, there is so much contention around money. Psychologists love but hate talking about money. They love talking about money when they're judging other people about their rates, judging other professionals, like, oh my God, I can't believe a lawyer charged this much, or I can't believe the psychiatrist charging this much. And then they're complaining about external factors like our healthcare system for not paying us enough. And I have a very different view. I'm like, well, if you want to make more money, raise your rates. Simple.
Make more money then.
And they're like, oh, but we can't do that. We can't raise our rates because no one will pay. And I'm like, well, if you keep thinking like that, no one is going to pay. People are going to accept that this is just what psychologists charge, and the cycle is going to continue. So you're perpetuating this cycle. Anyway, because of that, I have not wanted to post on psychology groups about my business because I, quite frankly, was terrified of being seen. And I've recently, like within the last month, have been posting in these groups. And the world did not implode. And it has actually stretched my nervous system's capacity for visibility, which has been an interesting reflection because I was legitimately so scared.
Yeah.
And it is like, it's something that like we hate to do. We hate to be visible. But at the same time, like if you want to make an impact and you want to have a successful business, you need to do it. But it's also this thing, like we can't jump into the deep end of the pool and be visible. You know, like imagine if you went from being a small town country girl to having everyone's eyes on you overnight. Like that would be terrifying. Your nervous system would freak the heck out. So we need to gradually increase the nervous system's threshold.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that story. I saw it on your Instagram today.
Oh yeah.
Story. I was like, yeah, that's something we should talk about. And actually, I want to share a story with that too. So when I was like 14, 15, I had like this Instagram account. And my dream was like to have 10,000 followers. And that was like always my dream. And then I achieved it. And then I blocked everybody in my city. I got so anxious when people were laughing. I got like so scared. I was like, people are talking about me. I couldn't handle it. I think I got until 15,000. And then I think, I don't know, like I stopped. And I remember I had one video, and I always wanted to have a viral video. That was like the dream. So I had like one video, and it's starting to get like 400, 500,000 views. And what do I do? Like, you know, when there's a video you post, you know, when it has already like in the first 3 hours, like 500,000 views, you know that's going to go up. Like, what I do, I wanted this for so long. I got so scared. I achieved this video like before it could even, like it would have maybe gotten to 1 million because it was out very, very early or something.
Yeah.
Or maybe a little bit less. And now like being more mature and like learning all the things about the nervous system, like I had what I wanted, but now I understood what people say when holding it. I couldn't hold it. Like I got also like hate pages, hate comments, like you got to deal with that. But at this point, that was too much for me to handle.
And I love that example, like, because it's so true. And it's funny because you say, yeah, this is what I want. And this is what people don't understand is that you can say, I want $1 million. I want a private jet. I don't know, whatever it is that you want. But if your nervous system hasn't gotten to that capacity, it hasn't stretched itself enough yet, then you will delete the video or archive it. You will, I don't know. I remember for me, like I was in a good place financially. I was so happy. I'm like, I have this. And then $800, I don't know how it landed in my account. I can't remember why. But it was this random $800. And then my car tires blew. All of them, I mean, not all of them, but I had to get my whole car tires changed. Do you know how much that cost? $800 exactly. And I was like, I looked at the universe and I'm like, are you kidding? Are you serious right now?
Yeah.
And the universe was laughing at me because when you don't have that capacity, it will take it away from you until you're ready. And if you continue to ignore those lessons, it's just going to keep replaying again and again and again and again.
Yeah. When people, I think I even saw it on, I have no newsletter. So I think I even got it from your newsletter or I read it somewhere of your resources. that capacity building.
Mm-hmm.
Can you explain to us what does that mean?
Oh, I kind of talk about it. Sorry if I keep looking to the side. I've got my dog in here and he's trotting around. I don't know why. Our nervous system is kind of designed like to hold a certain amount of stress. And some of us can hold more stress than others. If we can only kind of hold a little bit of stress, then it's not going to take much for us to move out into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. We're going to be able to tolerate a little bit, and then all of a sudden we're going to find ourselves procrastinating. Some people have more stretch capacity than others before they go into that procrastination mode or before they go into shutdown mode. But if we have a smaller capacity, then it means we're more likely to hit those levels sooner. So that might mean we can make $1,000 a month, and that is enough. And then when we hit $2,000, we're like, that is too much, and we keep going back to earning $1,000 a month.
Mm-hmm.
If we want to, and let's say, for example, we can earn $1,000 a month, but we want to earn $10,000, or let's say you want to have 1 million followers, but you're at 10,000. It's being able to build our capacity by gradual moments. So you've got 10,000 followers, then you have 11,000. Nervous system, how does that feel? It feels okay. The more that we do something, the more exposure that we get, the more that our nervous system becomes okay with it, and it starts to kind of stretch. The more that we can lean into it, the easier it becomes. Otherwise, if we just kind of go, and that's why not millionaires, lottery winners, like they lose their money. A lot of them lose it because they've got the money, but they don't have the nervous system to kind of hold. I don't think I've explained that very well at all. I'm so sorry.
No, I think it really made click. So, the capacity that we build is that. So my capacity of basically feeling safe in my body is also correlated to my capacity, how much money I can hold.
It's the same system. So it's like, it's related to stress. So when we have associated money with stress and fear, then our capacity to hold fear is low. Then it doesn't matter what triggers it, whether it's money or whether it's something else, then we're not going to be able to tolerate that very well.
Yeah.
Which is when we do nervous system work, you might not do you might do other nervous system work, which will help increase your capacity with money. You might do money-related work and find that it helps your relationships and your friendships because you're increasing your capacity. Your nervous system doesn't zone in and go, oh, we're just talking about money. It goes, oh,
yeah.
We're expanding our capacity in general, which then helps. I remember I had a client who we were doing money work, but then she messaged me and she was like, Ellie, is this normal? Because I went out with a group of friends and there was someone there who normally triggers me because they're a bit of a obnoxious person, and normally I find myself getting really irritated by them, but I wasn't triggered. She's like, what is this normal? I was like, yeah, because your capacity has increased, not just with money, but across the board. And so maybe this is just another area where it's also increased for you. And she was just blown away.
No, yeah, 100% agree. That's why also the topic of love and money, for me personally, is so close connected.
Find oh my gosh, I just don't, I can't do it. I was like, could I talk about love? I don't think so.
You mean you want to say how like the connect? I didn't get it exactly. What do you
sorry, I was like, oh my God, maybe I could like niche into love and money. And I'm like, no, I like money.
Yeah, I get what you mean. However, the connection is very close. How do you see it in yourself and your clients, like their love patterns and money patterns? How do they link?
Such an interesting question. Like, oh, how do they link? We know money is like an inanimate object, right? Like I have a candle here. Like
Yeah.
the candle is inanimate. We don't have a relationship with it. But with money, we have this relationship with it that's emotional. So even though it's an object, there's this strong emotional connection to it. Same with a person, there's a strong emotional connection or an attachment to it. And when, like, I kind of put it like this, like imagine that you're on a date with someone and you think they're out of your league. And so, like, I don't know, it's a blind date or something. You've never met them before. Or they're a Tinder date that it looks better than their photos. And you get there and you're like, oh my gosh, this person is way out of my league. I don't even have a chance with them. They're going to figure out that I'm not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you're not saying this out loud. This is all going on in your mind. But if you had that mentality, you might sit there across the date and they might be saying, hey, tell me about yourself. And you might say, I'm a teacher. You're not giving much information. Face isn't really engaged. Maybe it's less subtle than that, like I'm playing it up a little bit. But my point is, you've got all of these micro cues that are happening in your body. This person sitting opposite you is picking up on, are they really interested in me? And so even though your reality is, I really like this person, but I don't think they're interested in me, it's actually your behavior that's repelling them. Right? And then reading that, like it becomes this interplay. And then what happens is that person goes home, they say, oh, I had fun, not interested in taking it further. That reinforces that person's belief of, I knew they weren't into me. I knew they were out of my league. It reinforces that pattern. Now, I'm sharing this because it also relates to money, right? Because we look at money and we go, I want more money. Money, I want you. Oh, please come into my world. And yet what we do is money says, okay, here I am. And then we go and spend it. And money's like, well, why would you want me in your world when you just go and spend me? Like, we don't treat it very well.
Yeah.
And then subconsciously repel it and do all of these things, even though we say we want it.
Yeah. No, I love the example with what we believe about will show up in somewhere in our body and our micro expressions, and we don't realize how much we are in control of the results that we get.
And we don't think that we're doing it either. Like, and I find it really funny. I actually benefit and curse of being a psychologist sometimes, because it's one of the things that I do. Like, I don't do it all the time because, you know, sometimes my brain, I don't. But I remember going to like a networking event and someone was like, what do you do? And I'm like, you're a money coach. And I could see her visibly recoil. And I'm like, I just had to point it out. And I'm like, did you notice what your body just did then? And she was like, no, what? And I pointed it out to her and she was like, did I? I'm like, Our body communicates like all the time.
Did you become a client?
No, not an ideal client, like, you know, but it was just super fascinating. I love observing it. I think it's really funny.
Yeah.
But then you can also get it wrong as well. Like, and I think this is the thing, like, sometimes we can be so hyper aware of what's happening on the other person's face, because again, as women, we've been taught to do that. And sometimes we can become hyper fixated. Like, you might, and again, you're not even aware of it, but if their face changes, they raise an eyebrow when you say your prices, you think, oh, They think my price is too high. But really, they've just had like a little eyebrow twitch.
Yeah. I know like some financial coaches, they talk about different money personalities. Is that something that you also work with, or if you're familiar with?
To a degree, I think through my work, I've kind of seen, and I've kind of shifted some of the personalities, because there are a few that do stand out. But I think in terms of personalities, how I kind of categorize it is more through the nervous system types, because being able to understand how your nervous system, predominant nervous system responds, and how that shows up in money is how I guess I help my clients work through it. But yeah, I can definitely see like how the unworthiness wound, the perfectionism and control all kind of play into it in terms of personality types. Like there's so many ways that money impacts our personality or is influenced by our personality for sure.
Yeah. Our personality is influencing money.
100%.
Yeah.
I'm definitely more on the neurotic side.
What does that mean?
Like more anxious. Like I think I have definitely a more anxious, neurotic personality, which I'm sure influences my relationship with money, influences my flight response, and all of those things.
Yeah. So I hear you say, or I think that was also in your newsletter, like receiving more, or I saw something with like receiving room. Like, what is a common thing that is blocking women to receive more money, and how do they shift that?
Oh gosh. Think about this. Like if somebody gives you a compliment and tells you something nice about yourself, what's your first response?
Thank you.
Oh, good. I love that. Awesome. For a lot of women, we don't. We say, like, I don't know, I like your top. Oh, thanks. It was on sale. Or, oh, I like your top. Oh, awesome. I got it from a charity shop. You know, like we're very quick to, when somebody puts attention on us, we want to shift it, and we don't want to sit there and own it. We don't want to, it feels uncomfortable. And so I think with receiving, and like I bring up compliments because it's the same, like this is what I mean about nervous system work. It doesn't matter whether it's money, it doesn't matter whether it's compliments, sexual pleasure, like there's so much around receiving for women. And when it comes to money, again, we're so used to giving to others, we're so used to making sure that other people's needs are met, that the fact that we say, I want to make money, we don't want to do that. It feels uncomfortable, and which impacts our ability to receive, because not only can we not receive, but we then can't set prices that reflect our value, that reflect what we want to earn, which then impact our ability to buy things that we actually want to buy. Like we might want to buy that nice luxury car. So it kind of infiltrates everything. And to be able to shift it, we, again, micro moments of, well, how do we say thank you when somebody compliments you? Can we just pause without feeling the need to justify it, without feeling the need to downplay our existence because somebody has seen something in us that is nice.
Yeah. So feeling worthy of receiving, and then feeling the guilt and the shame, and feeling safe also to receive.
Yeah, it all comes down to like being able to sit with like emotions, to be able to sit with these uncomfortable emotions and recognize that actually we are worthy of money, of love, of receiving, of wealth, of the life that we want.
Okay, this is a personal struggle. I was looking for books who combine the nervous system and the money part, like a lot. I did a lot of research, and honestly, I found like one or two, maybe good ones, but I didn't find like a lot of resources. And even going on YouTube, I know your podcast is a resource. Um, what are resources where you gather your knowledge and where you learn from? And I need my phone to take notes.
To what? Take notes. It's interesting because, you know, it's how do I put it? Like, I know the nervous system, and I know how our nervous system responds to fear. And I know how our nervous system has viewed money, and I know how it has come from survival and how it impacts. In terms of formal education and whatnot, there is none. Like, you're right. Like, the nervous system, yes. The nervous system and money, less so. It's a huge gap, and hence part of the reason why I'm in this space is because it is a new gap, and I don't think a lot of people are talking about it. There are certainly people out there that do talk about it. There are other psychologists that talk about it, but not in a sense of here's a book, go learn about it. It's mostly go learn how to do spreadsheets, go learn how to do budgeting, go learn how to do affirmations or journaling, but not so much the nervous system. So I feel you. It's a new area.
Okay, not so many notes to take. Yeah.
Sorry, there's like you know, that there's not a lot of resources out there around it. It's because I've also done that. Like, I've also jumped online and you know, was looking at the research and all of that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's kind of cool being one of the first to pave the way.
I have done so much research to find books, anything. But there's not too much. So actually, that's why I contacted you, because I was like, I really want to go into this space of nervous system informed financial education. And so what I'm like kind of starting with you, and I also had an interview with a financial advisor last week. So she's a financial advisor, and she knows a little bit about like attachment, or she knows things about the attachment style, and I bring in also the nervous system informed side and everything. So I'm kind of planning on connecting financial advisors and then my nervous system expertise and people who already combine both, like you, and then focus on building this nervous system informed financial education. So
it's so cool. It's so needed, and it is just really needed.
Yeah. So I'm glad that we had this conversation, bringing this forward and creating the resources that we were looking for and researching. I think I don't have any other more questions. Is there anything that you feel like in your heart that you didn't have the opportunity to share yet?
No, I think like, I don't know. I know for me in Australia, like we're on different time zones and it's later than your area. So all I can think is, oh my gosh, I really hope I've explained this okay and that it makes sense and that I haven't waffled, but I think I still have waffled. And I guess the only other thing is, if anyone's curious about learning how to regulate the nervous system, go check out Regulate to Riches on my website, because that is a really cool resource that gives really simple, easy tools and techniques that helps people tune into their nervous system more.
Yes, I love that. So Regulate and Riches, right?
Yeah.
And if people want to work one-on-one with you, do you offer that as well?
Yeah, yep. So they can reach out, book a discovery call on my website, and unpack those money blocks and make more money by shifting those nervous system blocks and rewiring their subconscious, and happy days.
I love it. So I will put her website in the description of the video, and also her Instagram, so you can click and check her out. And yeah, if you're interested, you can work with her. I am so glad and so thankful for this conversation, and that you took the time to share your knowledge and wisdom with us. And yeah, also for every, like, if you're a financial advisor or you know somebody, or you have something with nervous system and finances to do, you can very happily reach out to me. I would love to interview you as well. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye bye.